Wildcats. I'm Emma Black.
And I'm Giselle Harris. Welcome to the 7th episode of Locker Talk,
Walton's best podcast ever.
Now, before we get started, Emma, tell our friends about Locker Talk.
Locker Talk is a fun-filled voice-over audio conversation. We want to learn something about an individual. Do you have a special talent or a cool pet or what? That individual could be you. If you're interested in being in our podcast, please contact AGROF at k12alma.org. We would love to see and get to know you.
Well, Wildcats, we are just wrapping up 2 weeks of Phase 4, and here with us today we have the counselors, Miss Crawford, Mr. Beloy.
How are you guys doing today?
Great, how are you?
Yeah.
Good, thanks for meeting with us today.
Glad to.
We know that counselors wear many hats in this school, and most of what you do revolves around face-to-face contact. Talk to us about how the pandemic has shifted your role as school counselors.
You know, Emma, that's a really good question, and I've thought about it quite a bit. And honestly, last spring, Miss Crawford and I, and before Miss Fernandez came on board with us, we kept talking about this so much. And yet, what I came to realize as time went on was that it actually was to focus on it not changing. That keeping my role as normal as possible. Now, granted, talking over Zoom or over the phone is not the same as talking in person. And it's required some adjustment, even on my part and my comfort level. But when I got through that, I realized I can do my job just the same with virtual and in person, or at least try to. And so that's been my view of the changes. Yes, there are obvious changes. It can feel isolating being at home, not talking to people in person. But I've tried to keep my role the same, and that's been one of the things that I've maintained my professional focus on.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a good strategy, but I'm sure it's been hard with the things that do have to be on Zoom and everything.
I was gonna say it has been difficult, and I don't want to gloss over that it is exactly the same. There are students that all of us want to help that are harder to reach if they're not in the building and we don't see them every day. And so I'm realistic about it, but I still try to maintain. I feel like I can do a better job if I maintain the focus of I'm still a school counselor, whether a student's virtual or in person. And I try to follow the same protocols as far as reaching out to a student or supporting a student as I would in person or virtual. Ms. Crawford, did you want to add to that?
No, I agree with everything that you say. I guess my only thought was definitely the big change, of course, is just relying on technology to access students. It's obviously much easier when we could just run down the hall and see a student in a classroom and things like that. And just as it's been difficult for you all and for teachers to rely on technology to learn, there definitely has been a lot for us to learn on how to do that and work with students.
Yes, it's been a roller coaster, but we're managing, and hopefully it won't last too much longer.
The building looks a bit more crowded these days, and a lot of kids are excited to be back. Are kids adapting well to the new restrictions?
That's a really great question also. I believe that students are. I will say first, as staff, we had to learn the new protocols and everything. And so the 2 days, a few weeks ago, when we were kind of in that transition stage into stage 4, Mr. Walton and Mr. Lewis had the teachers turning right and walking on those yellow arrows that are 6 feet apart so that we would learn them and get comfortable. And it felt very strange for us. And so it gave us a really good experience and like a viewpoint of what it would be like for all of you as students coming into the building. But, after, I think within the first few days, everybody has adapted really well. And I'm really impressed that it really feels smooth, I think. Everybody's just doing what they need to do. And even though it looks a little bit different, I think we found our new routine. And it is going great for those kids who are in the building. Generally, I am hearing that they're happy to be there. So it's been a nice transition for those students. But of course, we also try to keep in mind for those students who are still virtual. And so we've done a lot of things, as you both know, to make sure that we keep connected with students who are virtual as well, like including them in tours and things like that.
Well, we have heard that the kids have sort of like their restrictions, but it has been challenge, and some teachers aren't following them as well, so it's not just the students. But as a result of the nationwide closures, our governors recommended that classes moved online, and many of us are still continuing to learn virtually. Virtual learning isn't as easy as it sounds, and it's easy to miss class or not participate in the learning. What recommendations do you have to help motivate students and stay connected and involved in school?
Emma, again, really good question, and something that we as a counseling department talk about a lot and try to figure out how best we can help kids. I come back to that. I think structure. Students who are learning virtually, I think really, I highly recommend they establish structure in their homes as far as how they approach class. And this gets back to what I had said in the response to the first question of trying to create an environment that's similar to in-person, so that, like for me personally, I use an agenda that helps me organize my day. And I use that agenda whether I'm in the building or at home. Creating, if they can, a physical space that looks or feels like a classroom. And so it's not ideal, it's not the same, but it can be done from home, where you create just a good structure for yourself, where okay, 9:30, I got to get to advisory or first block, and try to create that at home. And I think Ms. Fernandez wanted to add to that.
I did, yeah. When I heard that question, the first thing that came to mind for me was just the body and how to take care of the body. So I think Zoom is more stressful than all of us realized a year ago on the body specifically. And I would recommend getting physically comfortable. So if you have 1 minute or 2 minutes, take a walking break, take a stretching break, make sure you're drinking plenty of water, maybe even go outside and stand in the sun for a minute. But if you change your physiological state a little bit, that can go a long way toward motivating your mind.
Right. And I personally try to get outside and get off my screen for a little bit each day.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. And just to add, it's the same thing as being in class, right? So teachers are generally more cognizant or aware of, hey guys, let's get up and we're going to work in groups, or we're going to go, I don't know, go do something different. And I think at home, Ms. Fernandez makes a good point. And believe me, on Fridays, I struggle to get myself up and moving and taking some breaks. And I appreciate that point was made, because it's super important.
So if students need help, how do they get in touch with their counselors?
I'm glad that you guys asked that. I think whether students are virtual or in person, one of the best ways to reach out to us is by email. All three of us are constantly balancing our time with students who are in the building as well as students who are at home. And so we're constantly with our computers and aware of what's going on. So with all of us, it's our first initial and last name at K-12 Albemarle. So D. Bloor, M. Crawford, and J. Fernandez. Students who are in the building can find us by coming by the counseling office and seeing Ms. Collier. Some students have their parents contact us, whether they call the counseling office or whether they have their parents or guardians send an email. There's also, if students just need a reference, we do have a counseling website on the Walton website. If you go to the Walton website, there's a little link at the bottom that says counseling, and you can click on that, and it does have our email addresses and things like that. We definitely want to hear from you. So keep in mind that if you're ever thinking like, I wonder if I should talk to my counselor about this, that you should probably reach out. So again, reach out to any of us. And even if you're not sure who your counselor is, if you find one of us, we'll get you to the right person. So please don't hesitate to talk to any of us at any time.
Hey Wildcats, we have just begun to crack the counseling office code. We will continue to work at that locker lock next week. And stay tuned for that episode. Feel free to check out all our current up-to-date content at our website by going to the Walton homepage and going under the content for students and clicking our webpage. And be on the lookout for a weekly email that has our update most recent episodes of WLHW and Locker Talk. And in case we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.